Welcome back, friends. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a little bit miscellaneous. I've got more updates on the Atlas 6x6 and some on the SCX24. And starting off with, we continue on with the front winch mount, particularly the guide for running the winch line up through to the front. Number two, we did more on the structure of the front bumper and the front winch mounts. That's pretty much all finished, structurally at least. And I did a rebuild on the back bed. You see the details on that. And just for fun, we tried putting the dual wheels on one of the SCX24 pickups, just for fun. So with that said, enjoy. I'm back working on the front winch again this morning. Because I already got the new one tore quite apart, I'll show you on the old one what I'm dealing with. You can see it. You can just imagine that the winch is back here. And we have to run the winch line up above the axle below this controller plate and above the drag link, and it has to miss this pitman arm mechanism. So here's the controller board here. This is what mounts in the frame, and the controller sits on here, and then we got the steering servo on the front. And this controller, I believe, is stuck onto here with just some double sticky tape. So we're going to pry that off. Then on the underside, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to run the winch line up through here, miss this arm, miss this piece right here, and then by the time it gets to the front here where it hooks to the winch, it should be centered. In preparation for this work, originally this front hole right here and this hole right here had little screws in it that screwed into the this plate and screws into here. And initially I sloped the back up a little bit with that hole above there. Now it's going to be back in the stock height position, and I drilled out the frame and the sides of this thing here for the 3mm bolts. So now instead of having little screws, I got these long 3mm bolts here. And so it's going to go all the way through this block, through the frame, and through the new rails for the new winch cross bumper on the front. So that's all been drilled out. And with this controller taken off of here, and if you can imagine, so what I'm imagining doing is 3D printing a part that can be captive underneath this bolt and this bolt here. And I went ahead, because I knew that I needed to catch this bolt, I went ahead and I drilled new holes or big holes in this deck. Not that it's going to be in the way of the controller, but I'm imagining that this whatever mechanism is going to catch the winch line as it comes through this spot right here, and it's going to guide it all the way up to here. So we're going to need some kind of 3D printed part with a hole in it in this direction to run the winch line, and then a couple holes in this direction so that these bolts will actually hold that part in place. So here's my initial 3D printed part, and how I imagine now is that it will fit right down into those holes that I made, and then line up with these bolt holes like this, one here, and the other one through here, and that's why I made these little holes here so that I had some meat here to get this bar onto here. And so now what I'm imagining is that we've got the winch line coming in through here, coming out here through the front. I think, and I expected this, I expected that this first piece would probably not be quite right. Actually, I'm surprised how well it does fit, but it rubs tight on the nose of this pitman arm, and it's also tight on the side of it here, and I believe that the movement of this needs to go past this point here. I think it needs to swing over maybe a few more millimeters right there. So this is in the way for this. So what I'm imagining now is we can still have this exit hole at this end, but we can shift this piece over so that it's more in that direction, so that the winch now would come in about here, angle back across, and then be centered by the time it gets to the front. That way we can have room for this piece and that piece. So now we'll work on getting another piece for that. Here's my new revised piece. I added a couple little gussets here on the top, that piece right there. And now we've got this tube at an angle where the winch line will come in here. Also made these pins just a little bit bigger diameter, because by the time I made the hole in here for the bolt, there wasn't a lot of material there. So let's put this piece in, get it oriented, and now fits in there, fits through there. Get this hole for this bolt to go across. Uh-oh, I don't like cracking sounds. Looking good, looking good. Get this to slide through those pins like that. Now, and this comes across this direction. So now we have plenty of clearance. It doesn't rub there, doesn't rub here. And I'm thinking that's going to be pretty close. I think it kind of goes from here to here when it crosses. Now let's put this piece into the truck, see how it fits with everything else. Here's the front of the truck. Here's the winch mock-up. And like I said before, now instead of them being small holes, I've got these big holes drilled out for the 3mm long bolts. Got the controller board with the servo. Should fit down inside the rail there. Get that hole started through there. That bolt started through there. And it'll work its way through the new 3D printed piece. Into the frame horn on that side, and then all the way through here to there. Now we should be able to take the second bolt, stick it through the frame, and then through the 3D printed piece on that side, 3D printed piece on that side, and all the way through. So now flip this over. See that and that. I got a piece of the winch line here in my hand, and it should stick in through the back side of this new piece, come all the way through, come out the front like that. So that's now the route of the winch line, and then which will then come out just below the new winch, and then it should just come right out like that. So I think that looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and put the front axle on just to see if I got enough throw in this pitman arm now for the steering to go all the way. I think it's going to be close. Here we are with the front end all back together. For the most part, I really like how the front comes right out where we want it, right over where the winch drum goes. It looks like we got plenty of room, not plenty of room, but just enough room for the complete turning of the pitman arm right up against that. One little change I think I want to make, if you can see it, is that this panhard bar, or whatever they call this thing, when the suspension goes down, it just barely hits the top of this new bracket, and there's plenty of material there. I can either just shave that off a little bit with a file, or if I do need to print another one of these, that would be one of the changes that I would make. So now we got the winch line coming off the winch, and once it runs back and forth, it will automatically center itself on this drum. Right now it's coming off the edge here, which is kind of where this is, but eventually it'll work its way back and forth right here and come right through this tube, come right out to the winch, turn this right side up, put the cab on it just so we can kind of have fun seeing how it looks. I need to redo those front mounts a little bit. So now the winch line and the drum will come right out there. I think I'll try out this new saw. This time I'm going to cut a couple of the aluminum bars for the first time. I bolted them together so they'll be exactly the same length. We'll see how this goes. I think that went very well. It cut a little slower than I expected. I had to go slow enough to keep the motor from bogging down, but it's a lot nicer than the hacksaw. Been working on the front winch mounts, and there I'm just kind of mocked it up there between all those bolts, but I got this front bumper kind of carved out like I'm thinking, so need to smooth this down here a little bit, but I like the way that's notched. Kind of keeps the thing hidden and routed. Here's more of the winch installation. Remember, we got the winch now bolted down into this notch in the frame, and we got this fake winch drum in the front that the winch line comes up through here. And I got most of these bars are now finished. We got, remember I drilled out the block that held the controller. Instead of little screws in it now, these are through bolts that go all the way through. This is a through bolt that goes all the way through. And I got these diagonal braces on here now. And the winch line now comes off the winch, goes underneath the controller. It goes through this tube that we printed with the 3D printer, and then goes underneath the winch drum like that. And then from the front, comes up over the bumper, and it should look just like it's coming from the winch drum. The battery box is now straight, and it's sitting on some shims right here. It's a little bit higher, so the cab sits a little bit higher. And when you put the cab on, it goes down back into the original magnet that thing held. And in the front, it was very close. I had to notch out right here just a little bit on the inner fender spots here for this bracket to fit down. And I turned these original cab mount pivot bolts, what used to bolt to the outside of the frame. I flipped them around backwards, and now they're inside here. And I want to build some kind of little notch or something for them to clip into when you're putting the cab on. Here's an update on the bed. Now that we lengthened this thing an inch, I had to redo the cross members where they mounted. And I've also doubled up the side rail. Remember, I had these extra holes in here from the previous arrangement. I thought, what am I going to do with those holes? So I went ahead and just drilled more of them and doubled up, made these extra little bars in between. So I think proportionally now that looks a little more real. And it kind of looks funny with all these black bolt heads in this light colored surface. But eventually, I got to keep reminding myself these things are going to be painted, probably flat black, and I'm going to make the bed all dark gray and weathered looking. So by the time we're done, most of those bolt heads will blend into the rest of it. And it's still a dump bed with a magnet, and which is good, which is okay. Just in case you're wondering, the duals fit on an SCX24. And they're a little bigger with the Atlas tires on it, but if you want that look and that ability, that's a good one. And even in the back, you can see that that they clear the shocks without any modification. These are aftermarket shocks, but they're the same location and size. So I'm just thinking in the future what we'd want to use with these duals, and I think that's going to be another option for somebody. Well, that was that for a few miscellaneous items tonight. Just to recap really quick, we worked on the front winch line guide mounts. We did more on the structure of the front bumper. We rebuilt the rear bed. And we just had a little bit of fun with our SCX24 pickup. And I just want to say thank you again for joining me on this channel. It's a lot of fun for me. I hope I'm providing something that's somewhat enjoyable for you. Thanks for watching.